Yeah, what's going on, y'all? Thank you for coming to my channel. My name is Wally, and you are now tuned into Playboy Hustlers TV.
Hey, this the king of melodies beat.
We are back with some more of this dirty scumbag guy right here. You already know his name, Rex Heuermann. Hey, listen, man, this guy was living a sneaky life, sending his family away while he was doing crime back in New York. You understand me? And I stand corrected. Hey, listen, before one of my previous videos, I believed I was mentioning Shannon Gilbert, but it seems like Shannon took the sacrifice in order for all the other bodies to be discovered. And it also looks like Gilgo Beach tried to bury this under the rug solely because of the area and also because of the women. Listen, doesn't matter if a woman is a prostitute, doesn't matter what she does. At the end of the day, she's a woman. You understand what I mean? So another thing too, I took the initiative to go look at the Netflix series too, or should I say the Netflix documentary called Lost Girls. I highly recommend you go watch that. A lot of this will make sense today. And they actually did all them families dirty. They really were not concerned with them women solely because of their choice of profession. And that was foul. I believe they could have been done over with this case, but they took their sweet time. But at the end of the day, hey, justice prevailed and the families could have some kind of closure. But for all the other missing people, let's hope they get some closure as well. And if you ask me, he has friends helping him. He is kind of big, so it looked like he can pick people up like with no problem. Then again, people like him have a lot of hip problems and knee problems, so sometimes they may not be able to bend. You understand what I mean? They look big, they look like they can swing and hit hard. When they fall, they may not be able to get up as fast because they got bad knees, hip, or back. You understand what I mean? So with that being said, let's dive into the Gilgo Beach, how they actually caught the guy, all right? So let's go right into this.
New York State investigator looked at a database. Amber Costello, the day before her disappearance on September 1st, 2010, met with an individual for the purposes of having him pay her money for her services. But she involved herself in a ruse where other individuals came into the house, pretended to be his significant others, confronted the individual with the purpose of making that individual uncomfortable, having him leave without retrieving his money. And that's exactly what happened. So that individual was identified as a person who was between 6'4" and 6'6",
like
a large man, thickly built, not necessarily overly muscular, but just a naturally big person with glasses, white and dark hair.
So you see what it was in that video. They had him with facial hair. It seems like from that day on, he never kept facial hair.
Thursday, July 13th proved to be an unlucky day for New York architect Rex Heuermann, 59 years old, identified by one witness as a 6'6" ogre. Ironically, this was not only one of the best clues in the case, but also part of the source code for the killer's motive.
An arrest in the Gilgo Beach murders more than a decade in the making. The case has long remained a mystery after a string of killings in 2010. This is the man police have taken into custody.
And it also looks like at night, there's not even a reason for police to be going there unless they are called. You get me?
Heuermann so far has been linked to 3 victims, but there may be as many as 18.
What?
In images published by the New York Post and Fox News, the towering, shaggy-haired architecture boss, a family man, a married father of 2, appears dazed and confused. When asked if the alleged killer was surprised when placed under arrest, Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney responded, "I would say he was." He wasn't the only one, and the reason for that was they kept this investigation secret.
But we are beginning to learn more about him and his arrest that has shocked the Long Island community.
His lawyer said yesterday that Heuermann was sobbing and blubbering. He said, "I did not do this." That was on Friday. In court, Heuermann was silent and stone-faced during his arraignment. That's almost already 3 different faces.
Alright, so if he didn't do it, then his boy did it. And when we say did it, meaning the actual murders. However, there's a team of people doing this. He's not the only one. So he better speak up. Somebody better find the rest of the information out, man.
To this alleged killer. The dazed and confused, the indignant, and then the silent and stone-faced appearance during his arraignment. And that's where we are right now.
Wow, you see this area right here? That looks nice right there. I ain't gonna front, but who is going to find someone or look for someone in these areas? No one. There's no reason or purpose to. You know, out there they got deers, they got deer ticks, they got all type of weird stuff going on out there. So no one's gonna be nosy like that. And there's not too many houses, so kids are the ones who become nosy. Adults mind their business when it comes to things like this.
Just hours ago, Heuermann was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty. In this analysis, I want to focus very briefly on how Heuermann was tracked down. How was a case that had gone cold for more than a decade?
Look at them. They found them getting the burner phones. How much you want to make a bet? They got receipts, which go back in the time. I don't know if they still got the video footage actually all the way today. Fast forward. That was like 15 years ago.
Brought back on track, ultimately leading to Thursday's outcome. On the streets of Massapequa Park, Long Island, his dramatic arrest in Midtown Manhattan outside his architectural office on Fifth Avenue, not far from where an infamous slice of pizza was recovered from a garbage can. But before we get to the rest of this episode, if you're new to this channel, my name is Nick van der Leek. I'm an author of numerous true crime books. I've also written books on mass shooters, and if you're new to this channel, or even if you're not, you may not be aware that I actually have a policy against covering cases involving gratuitous violence, and that applies in particular to serial killers. I'll put some more details regarding that in the description of this video. I'm making an exception in this case because of the many requests that I've received from you guys, and also I'm partial to New York since I was there just a few weeks ago, and the suspect worked in Midtown Manhattan, which is where I stayed when I was in New York. So in a nutshell, how did they catch him? Well, in a word, analysis.
Rex Heuermann was identified for the first time. And the manner in which that was done was the New York State investigator.
So this was his Tinder profile, whatever he was using, Craigslist or whatever. Like, I don't understand. So, you know, most women will look at him and be like, oh, I can get him for his money. He looks soft. But man, listen, these be the ones to do exactly what he did, yo. This is not your average John.
Investigator looked at a database.
Very graceful.
No, but very efficient.
It is, or it can be, a very efficient way to catch a killer. You need to break down large sets of data. How good are you at it?
Wow, look at all this right here. These where they put all the bodies at. They started getting scared over here. A toddler? A toddler? Someone killed a toddler? Someone got rid of a toddler? Are you really serious? Nah. That's different, yo. A toddler and an Asian male. So what was he at? A male escort?
How effective are you at seeing patterns in the noise? So if the how is analysis, the next question is what? Analyze what? Answer, phone data. Do you see, it still comes down to good old-fashioned police work, although today's good old-fashioned police work is a little more sophisticated, more digital, I guess, than yesterday's. So you want to be good with analytics, working systematically, analyzing data, identifying patterns, and then narrowing it all down. Simple, but not easy. But this is how the Suffolk County Police Commissioner got the ball rolling. So that is the how in a nutshell. But in terms of the overall story, where did it start? Well, it started around the 10-year anniversary of an unsolved case involving multiple victims. And an anniversary like that is as good a time to restart an investigation as any.
You never know who you're standing to on the aisle, on the supermarket, or your nearest convenience store.
And at first it was slow going. In February 2022, about 11 to 12 years after the murders, the Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison called the first meeting of a task force. 6 weeks later, and you heard him say that at the beginning, in mid-March 2022, Rex Heuermann's name came up for the first time. Not bad if you think about it. Basically, after just 6 weeks of investigating an 11 or 12-year-old...
So, they said they found the bodies somewhere in these areas right here. And for some reason, they got some mosquito stuff going in the middle where no one would really want to go to. So for them to know this, they was highly invested in this area, which means they know this area very well, which means that out here was the hangout spot for them. You hear me? And just think about it. What police is really driving through here at night? I wouldn't even want to drive through here at night. Where are the street lights? There's no street lights. You won't see anything. So you can actually drive the car to a certain area and you wouldn't even notice there's a car there as long as you got all the lights off.
Cold case, you already have a hold of a credible suspect. According to CNN, quote, investigators have gone backward through phone records collected from both Midtown Manhattan as well as the Massapequa Park area, two areas where a burner phone used by the alleged killer were detected. That's according to court documents. And so it was a simple process trying to configure two phones, trying to sync them up, two numbers moving through the urban fabric between Manhattan and Long Island in tandem. As I say, a simple strategy, but not so easy to do in practice. According to the article, quote, authorities then narrowed records collected by cell towers to thousands, then down to hundreds, and finally down to a handful of people who could match a suspect. Well, match him in what way? Well, you heard that as well. A particular idiosyncratic description. Authorities worked to focus on people who lived in the area of the cell tower who matched a physical description given by a witness who had seen the suspected killer, end quote. What was that description again? Well, a 6'6" ogre. Well, how many people in your neighborhood matched that description? I'd wager not many. At the beginning of this episode, I teased this idea that the appearance of the perpetrator is not only how they caught him, but also part of the psychology, part of the why. How though? How is how this person looked part of why he committed this crime? Well, allegedly. Another dimension to it was they learned that he had often driven a green pickup registered to his brother, but then they needed more circumstantial evidence than that, and that was the boots to the ground police work. So if we pull out to some extent out of the trees and we try and look at the general woods of this case, what are we talking?
That's the box right there that got him knocked. You hear me? That's good for him.
About? Are we talking about a stranger among us? Well, it's a popular myth that there is something special about serial killers. They're either incredibly clever or their psychopathy somehow makes them smarter than the average person. Do you think that is true in this?
Yo, look at all the people from the neighborhood that's just out there videotaping them. You know they want to move. Look what he did to his wife and kids, yo. Tarnished their last name and their livelihood as well, because you know they're going to get death threats.
This case. Scott Bonn, an assistant professor of sociology at Drew University in Madison, New Jersey, told the Times that this is someone who can walk into a room and seem like your average Joe. Is that a fair assessment, would you say? I think there's some truth in that, but also some distortion in that statement. The true part is that Heuermann perceived himself to be an average Joe, more average than he wanted to be, less average than society perceived him to be. But I wouldn't describe an architect working in Midtown Manhattan as average.
Word.
What is true about this statement is that serial killers, like all of us, have a dark side that they can successfully hide away for years, decades, while assuming a normal life as loving husbands and fathers. But that's not so very different from us. All of us are capable of hiding sides to ourselves for a long time as well. Others may regard serial killers as extremely evil and thus mind-numbingly frightening. And so there's this interesting quote where police have described him as a demon who walks amongst us, a predator who ruins families.
Yeah, that was the commissioner that said that, actually.
And those are actually the words of Suffolk County Police Chief Rodney Harrison. Well, he wasn't some kind of alien to Heuermann's wife and children. He wasn't some kind of strange, otherworldly predator to his colleagues, not even to his former classmates. And we'll get to them in a moment. What this shows isn't how evil or psychopathic or terrifying a particular serial killer is. It shows instead how criminality can exist in a community, even in a family, without a community knowing about it. And so what is missing in that? How can a community figure out that there's a serial killer in their midst? Well, with a bit of critical thinking. And that then brings us to my speciality, which is criminal psychology. Now, whenever one deals with gratuitous crime, that's to say, crime that is particularly cruel, thoughtless, heartless, also violent and heinous, one must be careful to separate it from other crimes and criminals. In the Idaho student's case, the extremeness of the crime matches the extreme psychology of the individual.
Yo, this is unbelievable right here, man. I cannot believe this guy right here. This guy done lost his noodles, yo.
And we have an extreme level of sadism. You're also going to have a corresponding extreme level of anality. In terms of this extreme psychology, how has it been deformed or twisted? Well, it's through a process and over a period of time. So how does this process play out in practice? And specifically, in terms of this specific individual, how does it actually practically play out? And that raises another question. Are serial killers born or made? Is it nature or nurture? Well, it's clearly a bit of both, but people may be surprised to know just how much nurturing is involved.
I believe it's a collective of everything. It's not just one thing. It's a collective of everything, and it's your upbringing. It's what you see. You know, these people are created. No one is born no killer. No one is born to do any of that. You understand what I'm saying? Babies are babies. You know what I mean? They're innocent. What happens is before 7 years old, they're like a sponge. And depending on what they see or what they're introduced to, you know what I mean? Or how they're treated, could take a turn for the worse. You hear me?
Nurturing, by the way, is that component that comes from society. Some nurturing clearly flows from one's nature as well. Certain natural appetites can be nurtured until they become unnatural, such as excessive consumption of pornography. Now, when investigators searched Heuermann's computer, what did they find? Well, a disturbing internet search history, including 200 searches aimed at learning about the status of the investigation. That's also kind of an extreme amount of interest in a particular case, wouldn't you say? Of course, his internet searches also included queries.
You know, him doing that was driving him crazy. His anxiety was up the wall. He knew he was going to get caught. So he was surprised. It was just about the when. You hear me?
For a particular kind of online content that I think can best be described as depraved and also sadistic. And that brings us to victimology. Most of the known victims in this case were sex workers who advertised on Craigslist. It's clear the killer had no connection to any of the victims. He simply had a raving, rampant, and extremely deviant appetite that had gone from an addiction to a compulsion. And each crime was an attempt to satisfy these feelings and impulses. Well, what feelings and impulses in particular? The perpetrator wasn't seeking any kind of personal connection, but rather wanted a release for his violent fantasies. And so he saw sex workers as an easy way to procure, that's another word for lure, and also easily disposable. In other words, his interests were gratuitous. According to The Sun, quote, American Express records that were obtained from a subpoena indicated that Heuermann allegedly made several Google Pay payments for a Tinder account.
He was paying for it too? What a simp.
The account was made using the name Andrew Roberts, according to the document. Andrew is Heuermann's middle name. The email address used for the Tinder profile was allegedly used under the name John Springfield.
Yo, I'm going to tell you like this, man. If you out there paying for porn, paying for dating apps, you lost it, man. I'm sorry. Go outside in the real world, man. You'll see how much fun you'll have.
And at a zip code from Astoria, Queens in New York City. A search warrant was obtained to investigate the email address, which revealed several selfies that appear to have been taken by Heuermann himself. The photos were allegedly sent to people in hopes of soliciting and arranging hookups, which investigators believe links Heuermann to the John Springfield email address and Tinder profile.
If you ask me, you really think he stopped from back then to now? You really believe that? I don't.
You also have this strange situation where you have this alter ego, this fake name, fake persona, engaging online with other fake names and personas from these sex workers. But when you think about serial killers, it tends to have this really powerful allure about it, that there's something almost out of this world, an out of this world intelligence taking place. But when you know the details, there's nothing very James Moriarty going on here. If anything, it's quite a lazy, clumsy way of committing crimes, because you're taking selfies, distributing them, sending them out into the ether, and leaving digital breadcrumbs everywhere. Using a burner phone was one way to complicate the track and trace process.
But they still got you, boy.
And that then brings us to the evidence trail. Mirroring the digital evidence trail, there's also a DNA trail. We won't go into much of that detail here, but that is what you tend to leave in murders which have an expressly sexual motive. And as mentioned, witnesses had also seen the suspect and his vehicle.
Every last one of them is probably telling each other, wow, I seen him too. You seen him? Yeah, I used to see him at the supermarket. Yeah, I used to see him over here. Oh my God, oh my goodness. Wow. He brought the community together, though. He did a lot. It's crazy, man. May the families rest in peace, though. Word up. No laughing matter.
There were also credit card bills that formed part of the database that they had to sort of figure out. Incredibly, some of the DNA found on the victims' bodies was from Heuermann's wife, who police discovered was often out of town when the crimes were committed. This was likely transferred DNA. For me, the most interesting aspect of serial killers are the psychological seeds. As mentioned earlier, people tend to regard serial killers with unrealistic awe. In reality, serial killers are very real products of society. If they are monsters, well then we, collectively, are the monster's mother.
Who are you?
I'm the monster's mother.
What serial killers do is they reveal the most vacuous elements in ourselves and our society to us, despite the efforts to imagine them as alien monsters or demons that are nothing like us. And so where did Heuermann's sexual animosity potentially take root? According to The Sun, quote, former classmates of Heuermann's at Byrne High School in Massapequa, New York, they reacted in a voice of collective shock. Oh, how did this happen? Maureen Holpert, who was in the same graduating class as Heuermann in 1981, she told the U.S. Sun that she never thought the quiet, mild-mannered and awkward teen she remembered from all those years ago would ever be capable of allegedly committing such horrific acts.
Well, guess what, baby? It be the weird ones that will do something like this. Pay attention.
I don't know. So often we hear about perpetrators that are all of those things.
Man, look, this guy's insane. He's a sicko. They need to put him under the jail. He never need to see light again. You understand me? With that being said, hey, man, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell so you can see when I post some more videos. With that being said, I would like to send my condolences to all the families. Rest in peace to all the lives lost. And I'm glad that now they are finally able to have some sort of closure, all right? With that being said, let's hope they get this man 100 million years. You understand me? I wish death on nobody, and I definitely don't wish jail on anyone, not even my enemies. But this guy right here, he gets a pass. He needs to go there. He needs to stay there indefinitely, all right? Later, y'all.